we look, Randy?
We are live, so we can go ahead and get started with the Facilities Committee meeting. Thank you, Nexus, for coming, and we are very eager to hear what you have to say.
Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Well, I don't know if all of you guys, you know me, I'm Ellie Gilliam. I'm a client executive with Nexus. Lance Knoll, he developed the project. Brent Jones, one of the principals of Nexus, and Mike David, another principal of Nexus. So the goal today is no decisions need to be made. It's basically just going through the information here to kind of listen and learn and ask questions. So basically, phase 3 was approved at the last board meeting. And this is kind of what is included in phase 3. So basically work with the district to refine the project scope and budget, work with the financial advisor to develop a solution that works for the community. And then work with the community, just all their input in every way that we can to bring the input through you guys, through other tours, whatever we can do. A community survey to test the options, finalize it, and then start the community engagement once it's been finalized on a plan and the board has approved it. And we also help with as much or as little as the district wants in the referendum collateral, like videos, flyers, anything that you guys want will help facilitate that. Provide the strategy and support that you need. And then in the end, the project design and construction. So the agenda is basically the main gist of it is to go into the options, kind of dig through the options and really talk in detail and let you ask questions and just discuss them. Then we'll kind of go through like the consensus building process on how we foresee it. Potential future meetings and then questions. And please, I want to keep it informal, so please just ask questions along the way. So with that, I'll go into, I've left that one in there. I don't know if you wanted to talk through that.
Yeah, so those of you here were here at the board meeting, a couple things here. Just I wanted to ground everybody on what question 1 was back in 2021. People have that number in their heads. That was question 1, less than 2.5 million we had in there for that economic development fund. So what we were investing in schools, and your existing stadium, one.
Brent, could I have you grab the microphone?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
The challenge is that when that project's put together by the previous consultants, construction inflation has gone up 30%, right? So just want to ground everybody that when you're comparing what you have in front of you, and trying to compare it to what you had in 2021. The 2021 question would have been about 74.5 million. I did have want to point something out. I had a typo in this when I gave it to the board meeting. I had a note here that Q1, that was a new building, didn't have a pool in it or anything. These options obviously all have a pool in there. Q1 there had less pool gym space. The options we have here, you still have 4 gyms. Q1 didn't. And we had more stadium and work being done in this than Q1 had in 2. So just want to it's hard to go exact apples to apples to Q1, but I was just trying to ground everybody. Jumping into the
Well, especially when the first time around, we actually didn't have any plans to look at.
right. It was just
So we didn't even know what we were
It
getting.
was a green field and a proposed parking lot and a proposed building and throwing it right. Couple of things I want to hand out, and we apologize this. We try to be perfect, but there's so many things in these books. It's easy to make mistakes. We found a couple of little typos, and you can either redline them right in your books, or we've got extra sheets. But I know people hate extra sheets, so I want to as I come across them, I'm going to show you a little red line. So it doesn't affect the numbers at all. It really is not a big change, but just we want to always be as accurate as best we can. So the only thing that changed on this was in your books, this little section here wasn't shaded and demoed, and that's part of the demo. That's the other locker room there that we're supposed to demo, and that 2-story upper level seating in the gym. So that should have been great.
Okay, what page are we on then? What page would we be looking at?
114.
Yep, that one.
Okay, so it's this one right here.
Yep, because you can color that in, and we did provide you a new sheet here, but it's hard to put new sheets in these books the way they're honed.
Okay.
And I know we don't want to.
So that's the part that's the stage and or
Yeah.
not the stage?
No.
No.
Balcony?
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep, not usually.
Balcony seating.
And nothing changed here. We talked about, and two different options, for Bird Island, A and B, we're demoing all this. In C, we're reusing this, and in D, we're demoing all this. So, just actually the differences in that. But your sheets don't change at all. Okay, option A is one, probably the one you've seen the most, right? We've been through it a number of times. The red dash line, again, just depicts where the new construction would be. Anything within this red boundary here is all new. So reusing the floor, reusing the gym, reusing the media, reusing everything this way. Everything else is new construction. This is the one we've gone through multiple times with the staff, admin team, to make sure we had enough. Let's see a second. A lot of input on and make sure we have enough spaces for everybody. The one thing, I'd like to have Jim, you and Brett go through the office here and make sure we have enough offices to house everybody that you guys foresee housing. Just want to double check that. We were looking at that and kind of counting ourselves, and we're like, we might be short a couple offices. So again, that's some of the tweaking that we need to do down the road. So if you can do that, that would be great. So this one, all school functions are all grades here, early childhood through 12th grade, all are Olivia, Bird Island, and this option here. And again, these could be done, you could just invest here if you wanted. If you want to invest in both sites, in this option, Bird Island, demoing the old 3-story section and the old, frankly, 56, I think wing it is, in the cafeteria kitchen. And making this, reusing this for sporting events. So basically taking that old stage out of there, demoing this whole area, filling in that music room pit, lower level step, making that one level, giving you new concessions lobby, new public restrooms. Some money in for this revamping the stage floor, the lighting and sound systems, so you can use it for performances. Right now, as I mentioned in the board meeting, we have money in the numbers you see to make some improvements to this stage, turn the lower level locker room into a green room or dressing rooms to serve the stage. If you go and do a new auditorium, we need to net that out. Right now, we got some duplication. I think if you're gonna put money in here, you're not gonna probably spend money on stage and stuff either. So that's in there right now. So I'm just telling you, there's some, as we progress through this over the next few months, there is tweaking we can do to fine tune things. So again, gymnasium will be for using sporting events, concerts, plays, things of that nature. New ventilation system, hot water throughout the building, get rid of the steam. New ventilation system here. There is no ventilation for this gym now. We add ventilation for that. Construct 2 new locker rooms, because right now your locker rooms are, the one old locker room is over here in this building we demoed. 2 new locker rooms. And then this area, minimal work in the media center is now in these 3 classrooms. On labeled as community, it could be used as community, it could be used part of the Island Hub, it could be used senior citizens, anything you think of, could be a public-private partnership, maybe a business wants to do it there. And if you did that, we could figure out a security here so we could separate this from the rest of the building. So that's kind of what we're looking for option 1. This is kind of what you saw before. Any questions on this one? I think we've all seen this one numerous times.
Can you tell me why you guys, and I think you've said it before, but why you think the 2-story part on the north end has to be removed and why the gymnasium, we want to take the balcony out and stuff?
You don't, one part of it is the demo coming through here and demoing this old, getting into, to build a demo, this old boiler room and that old lower level pool area and that old multi-purpose room. Is getting in here is going to be, without taking this down. Plus, this, correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, isn't that one section, isn't the end, like the art room, is that? That's kind of, this is what 236 kind of goes over the art room. Art room's part of the old part of the building too, isn't it? Yeah. So it's very messy to try to keep that. You do need a lot of work done in your science labs. The art room needs a lot of work. And we thought that would work for, to do this a long-term solution, it'd be great to get it to be a 1-story building, get an elevator out of here. But it's something we can try to
Does the science rooms have to stay there or can we move those into a different area and put something else there?
This actually moves them down here.
You could, I mean, I guess you still need, all your other spaces are pretty much accounted for. Not really sure what else you put there. Fair question. I mean, unless you put some middle school, unless you put 5th or 6th grade up there. You know,
Mhm.
it's kind of the section that we got here, right, 5th and 6th grade. We're trying to give you new mechanical, new boiler plant, new kitchen, receiving and everything. So once you do all that, it just doesn't seem to be worth, it just doesn't seem worth the squeeze as far as trying to save that small section.
Does that make sense? What we got looking at it is we don't spend it as much, if not more money to save that whole area rather than dose it and rethink it.
You want us to ask questions or we're just going?
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Okay.
no, for sure.
So you answered that. My other question is, up on top there, we got 5 locker rooms. One being a guest locker room. Are we, do we,
5, I mean, 3.
And plus the 2
1, 2,
existing.
3, 2 in the pool?
Mhm.
Oh, yes, the pool ones, correct. Yeah, so it's one more than you have now. Because you had 2 that are under over here, and which are really antiquated, so we're replacing those 2. And only net add is the visitor room, so if you wanted to get rid of that, you certainly could.
I guess my question is, is there not a possibility that we could combine the pool and athletic locker room as one?
Mhm.
And
I was thinking the same
is there
thing.
a way to do that? And the other question is, when our football players come from the football field, they go in underneath where their locker room is now. Now they're going to have to go around.
Well, it probably depends what we do with the flooring here, we probably do a rubber flooring all up through here, so probably in here. Versus, you're not gonna want to traipse through the whole building.
Right.
Probably this door here, but if you have cleats on, spikes on it, stuff you want. flooring,
I guess
you could handle that.
Is there an option we can move a locker room towards this side?
Maybe flip like that health room.
This health room, you could put a locker room here, for example,
Or over by the fitness?
or pull the fitness this way and put a locker room here.
Mhm.
Again, that's great design committee ideas. It goes back to, do you need a locker room? I mean, putting it here or here is not gonna change the.
The cost.
What's that?
Well, I get that too, but to get more bang for our buck, would it be wise to those 2 pool locker rooms, being we don't have any pool events on game nights, to really jazz those up and use those? And there's 2 right there for visiting team and home team.
They're not really set up for, you sure they could put football in there or something. I mean, there's like locker rooms for picking up the pads and everything. They're which ones is? And they're not that large. They're quite a bit
Well, they'd have to be redone. I get that. They'd have to be redone.
Right.
Yeah, but you can't make, I mean, the
Or moved.
footprint of them are kind of, they are what they are.
But you could bump that north wall out there and make them bigger if you need be.
This way,
Yeah.
we could, but then, it kind of messes up your corridor and everything else you're trying to do up here, but.
And then we wouldn't have to have that whole top north section there. That would eliminate that.
Well, you're still gonna need to train your agents, you're gonna have to replace your wrestling multi-purpose room.
And I think this is a conversation we would definitely want to have
Athletics.
in, the city owns half of that pool, and half of those locker rooms, so they're gonna want to weigh in on that as well.
Absolutely.
And the one thing is, I guess, I preface this, what we're trying to accomplish tonight is obviously answer your questions. But from a big perspective, we need to try to get from 4 options down to 2 for the survey. And what you talked about as far as these locker rooms, it's the same in all 4 options. So as far as the delta between the 4 options, it doesn't change the decision-making process. Once we get it down to 2, then we can sit and really try to start.
Well, like in this option 1 now where that auditorium is, what would it look like if that whole auditorium choir band room area is out of there
So what that would look like.
and on a separate thing on its own.
Right, so, this is what the survey will say, how much support is it for the auditorium, and does it lend itself to a second question or not? If it didn't, this would basically rotate and come down, and this middle school section here would come down for roundabout, if you didn't, if the public said no.
Right. Because my concern is doubling up. If we already have an area in Bird Island that can be used as an auditorium that would seat more than 350 people, we could use that money well spent somewhere else instead of having something over there and then building something brand new here.
I get that, Teresa. I had a dozen people say, make sure you test an auditorium, so that's all we're doing. We're gonna test it, and we're gonna find out what the survey says. So, but
So-
yeah, that whole section can come out, so you want to envision it. Again, that's what the survey is gonna tell us, because when we get post-survey and get to the point where you and the task force and the community and the board can say, this is what we want to go to referendum for, then we can take these plans to the next step as far as more detail on them and kind of show different options with or without auditorium.
So when you do the survey, do you put monetary numbers
Mhm.
next to the questions?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so they understand that, doing a new auditorium, would add $5 million. We could revamp Bird Island and have
For this
for $500,000 or whatever the
And we
number is.
test the tax appetite, so
All right.
like, as an overall too, this is how
Okay.
much it's going to
Yeah,
affect you, and
Well, not even just that either, because, some people, there's a lot of people that it's not going to affect as much as the business people, and some other people are going to get hit pretty hard. So not only just that, they need to realize we might be doubling up, or we have something that could very well be conducive to what we're doing instead of putting big dollars, especially with the economy the way it is. We have to be smart with our money. And right now, we really need to focus on education and what's best for our students. That's first priority.
Yeah. And if we don't even want to test it, we can take it out now.
No, I
I
like what Randy
definitely want
said.
to test
We
it.
need to test it.
Okay.
Yeah,
But to your point, without the for new financial context, oh, yeah, I like it.
exactly.
Exactly.
Everyone wants everything at no
Mhm.
cost.
Exactly.
And the reason we say too, we work with a polling company, I think A and B are close enough to each other, C and D are close enough, but I think this group can kind of get to the two. If you're doing the best way to do a true unbiased survey is a random phone survey. Person on a phone trying to keep in their head 4 different options, understand, it would just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would turn to mush.
agreed.
Let's go to the second option. Before we go to that
For me,
one,
I think it's important, Brent said this, but keep in mind, as you go in the report, you'll see that we've got a cost for option A at Olivia, cost for option A at Bird Island, or a commissioned cost. This option A is a little bit unique in that you could potentially do everything at Olivia and do nothing at Bird Island. We're not suggesting that's the right thing to do, we're just saying if money becomes a factor, this is the only option.
these only ones are mutually exclusive. From then on, it kind of depended on each other. Other thing is just from a deferred maintenance standpoint, at a high level, updating your IT infrastructure, IT cabling and audio visual in the classrooms. Your HVAC systems, even your new addition down here, it's got that fiber board, you got to go to ducted, true air handler ductwork, get rid of the fiber board, it's blowing apart. All new ventilation systems through here, get rid of the fiber board through here. New ventilation systems for the pool, fixing the pool wall. Is this, you mentioned something about the city. I know they get the 50-50. Where do they, at what point do you engage them in this discussion? That they have a little bit of, they should be ponying up something there.
Yeah, they're gonna want to definitely have some say into how that looks.
Well, but some say, but to me, if they want some say, they need
Oh, sure.
to show some.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I think that they should probably be approached now.
Yeah, I think we should.
Because certainly dictate which way we push if we know they're partners in that.
So Brent, I have another question for you too. When you're doing this also, can you show it so that's just option A without the track, the football fields and stuff, and keep that all separate so people can see this is what we're doing just with the schools. All this other stuff is extra.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. This is exactly, the stadium can be its own. it should be surveyed and tested on its own merits. Yes. The other thing I want to say, and yeah, I don't want to go into the weeds right now on it, is when we get, I'm telling you, these things are consistent across all 4 options, so it doesn't help us go from 4 to 2. But once we get down to 2, air conditioning, we have cooling everywhere between these buildings. That's another thing that I want you to think about, as you say, that's another place to save money. That's not my point, right? You get down to the point and say, we don't need air conditioning to the gyms, or like this whole wing doesn't need air conditioning. In the pool, you have to control the humidity,
Absolutely.
otherwise it destroys itself like it has. But these other areas don't need air conditioning right now. These areas, does this need to be air conditioned? Does this need to be, so keep that in mind for subsequent meetings.
I have a question again too. So, with adequate ventilation, which would be an upgrade in our gym spaces,
Mhm.
maybe the need for probably not having to have air conditioning would make more sense than that, because it'd be more, for like
Better airflow-
moisture and,
Yeah, better airflow always helps. Where it gets trouble is the humidity of the floor can get slick, like playing volleyball and stuff. And I know a lot
That
of-
happened this year.
That happened here, right? It happens in a lot of schools.
yeah.
If you can't bring the moisture out, it can get slick. I'm playing for surface. That's the only.
Yeah, but you'll probably get that with sweat too. When people sweat and they fall on the ground, it's gonna get wet, like at a
When
Timberwolves
someone
game.
falls down, there's someone should come towel up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are gyms without air conditioning, for sure.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind. Let's put option B here.
On that air conditioning, when we get to that, I guess later as well, do you have any ideas of cost of operation? I mean, what that costs?
Yeah, we can bring
Throw
that to
something
you,
on that.
kind of a cost per square foot, yeah.
All
totally.
right.
Yep.
Sure.
Oh, one thing too, going forward now, when we're looking at the different classroom sizes as they keep changing, can you tell us what the square footage is now and if what we have is adequate versus, and then going into option A, B, C, and D, how the classrooms get bigger? Because I noticed some of these, they're getting a lot bigger.
Yeah, so if you go back to A, I think the only place that yeah, it does change. Okay, so these are all 900 square foot. These are all nice. These rooms are bigger for the childhood are bigger, right? Your science rooms, in fact, these labs are bigger. They're gonna be 1,200, 1,250.
Okay.
Obviously, your shops are bigger, right? Your standard classrooms through here and the new ones here would all be around that 900 square foot range, which is typical for, you usually think about 30 square foot per occupant. Okay, so most schools are designed around, if you had to put 30 kids in a room, you better make it 900. Your numbers are smaller, so you could get by with less. The area that's smaller is right through here to here, those existing classrooms now, I want to say are 735.
Okay. Existing.
700, mid 700s,
Okay.
which is, if you were to say, I'm gonna build a new school, would I build them that small? No. The good news, if you want to put it that way, is I think you only have like 22 or 23 kids in there. If you use the 30 square foot students, it works. Where they really run out of space is storage. So to supplement these, to counteract the fact that they're smaller square footage, is we're putting in these storage rooms for the different grade levels to get some of the stuff out of their classrooms. Her child has got some storage here, so that's a great question, Teresa. So mid 70s, you can look up the exact number on it, but mid 70s, mid 700s there. We go to option B. But what that allows us to do, early childhood went to Bird Island, kindergarten moved from here to here, and it allowed us to basically take these walls out between here and expand these from 750, call it, to 900. So now these are consistent size with everybody else.
Okay, so we're on Plan B is 900, so in Plan A, what was the size of the Plan A classrooms?
About 750,
750 on these, and these are 900, okay,
Yep.
and 900 would be considered a standard size today.
got it.
And Teresa, on following on your question, I had the same thing written down here. We're really not gaining any classroom size from what we have today, are we?
On option
And
A.
not
I mean,
in option
in
A.
option A, I mean, our square foot of the school is actually smaller, isn't it? Because we have you were gaining locker rooms and multipurpose and
Okay.
commons area, but our classroom sizes, we're actually going backwards on classroom size, aren't we?
No, it should be the same.
It'd be the same.
But we have one story and we have two now and some of that, and we'll go to one. But is that larger than what we're taking down?
Mhm.
Well, you're gaining, remember, you're replacing the band choir that you're taking down, the new here. You're getting all new middle school here. So that's kind of counteracting
Yep.
what you were.
Taking down.
Taking down. Yeah.
So I mean, in essence, we're about the same
About the same.
classroom size.
Yeah.
Yep, and we'll create a table that says, like, here's your existing square footage. Are you talking overall square footage?
Yeah, I'd like that if we could and just,
Like overall square footage?
yeah, if you could just drop it onto each classroom or
Well,
commons area, or
so you want, I guess what I asked, you want square footage labeled in every little square?
if you could, that'd be fabulous.
Mhm.
Or, you know, they don't all have to be if they're all the same, but some
The
side
size.
notes or
Yeah.
just to kind of get an idea, because I was a little surprised we looked at it. I mean, does that seem okay to you, Jim, that we have enough classroom space today? If it, I mean, I get it. If we move ECFE to Bird Island, we gain, but
But where we, right now, it's too tight, right? Like,
It's awfully tight right now.
right, so we're moving fitness from here for new fitness, right, for example.
so we're gaining there.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're gaining, we're taking this cafeteria and everything down and kitchen cafeteria here, a new music. We're gaining a music, elementary music, which you don't have.
Right.
We're gaining some breakout spaces. We went through the math as far as the number of classrooms, some breakout spaces and flex areas. And you're gaining, this, because this middle school, these kids now are stuck down in here right now. So they're
Right.
about getting us all movement. So
District
If-
offices go in the. main
district office goes, so high school
Right.
comes here, yep.
Do you know how many square feet we're demoing right offhand?
Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to correct here. It's 40,000.
40,000.
40,000 square feet.
That we're taking down?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that big. Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the things we're going to correct. We're showing
Okay.
something.
And we're building back 50 some
58.
58, but a lot of that is, okay. It would be helpful to have some square footage for sure on those areas if you could.
But it's not going to be much of value to back up a couple slides. That means you're going to need it. That means you're going to keep going. Back up. You're going to keep going. One more. That means you're going to need it on here. Otherwise, you're not going to have.
On the old one as
You're not
well.
going to have any context if you don't have the old.
Correct. That'd be
Mhm.
great.
We'll do the, if it's all right, we'll do the major thing. I mean, I'm not gonna do like little toilet rooms and storage.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
no.
the major areas.
Correct. Yep.
This thing's gonna get really busy and hard to read, go crazy, so, all right, good option B. So B, the only difference between A and B is given an educational purpose over to Bird Island, for the early childhood. And allows this section of the building to get from 750 to 900 square feet. That's all, only difference between the two options. If that makes sense to you.
Because you're moving kindergarten down to where early childhood is now.
So all the questions you had before about locker rooms or air conditioning, it's different A and B. So
On the bottom there, where it says ST in gray, is that just storage?
ST,
Yes,
ST,
ST right here.
yeah,
nope, and the gray, it's
Yeah.
all storage. okay.
Storage, yeah, like this is all your gym PE equipment storage.
Okay.
This storage here is, storage to support kindergarten or early childhood, whatever ends up in here.
And what's the C next to that storage underneath that gym? The C to the right. Yeah, right in there. What's that?
Custodial.
Oh, custodial. Right here.
This was a legend.
Got it. Got it.
I should have bought them all.
Got it.
Oh, yeah, another thing,
I said closet.
if- remind you what happened, what changed when we made it A and B. We had some, big thing that came back from the staff is that all the elementary kids use these two toilets. And all these high school kids are using these two toilets. And I'm like, we gotta get high school and elementary separate. So we originally had some toilets here for high school, and then we were talking about it. Remember, we said, well, God, it'd be great to have some toilets in the periphery that you can use, people can walk to the stadium and use when there's a football game. So we just took them from here, put them here. There was a classroom here, and that went back to here, so. we
Mhm,
just did
I
those
like
for
that.
now.
So there's two toilets on the bottom, you're not adding on, you're just putting them in a classroom or?
Yeah, we
adding
just,
it?
what was a classroom, where we now have a corridor and two lecturers.
Okay.
So during an event out there, we could lock the school down, use the
Into-
restrooms from the exterior. During the day, you can lock the exterior doors and use it from the school side.
We need to get a set down here somewhere, and regardless, it's gonna take a existing classroom space, so. Pick the room that you wanna do that to.
Okay.
So during this renovation, if you're moving the bathrooms around, I mean, plumbing, so obviously this whole thing is gonna be all dug up. It's,
When you say the whole, you're gonna be,
To get the plumbing down there for the
you're
bathroom.
gonna do some saw cutting in the
It's,
floor.
well, oh, just, okay.
And to connect, we gotta see where our service connection comes in. You gotta look at your slope, it's called invert on your pipe, and are we deep enough, can be sloped from those bathrooms to an existing pipe, or are we gonna have to go out in the ground, and we are putting a new storm, sanitary sewer through here too, connecting out to the concessions and the team room, so that's probably where we'll connect.
Makes sense.
But these toilets are existing locations, these toilets are existing locations, These would be new construction up here, and these would be new.
One of the other facility members had just asked a question on new versus old. If we just look at your options, like on option A, new construction versus renovating, is that,
No, that's one of the books we just handed out here.
okay, correction in there?
Correction, yep. Thank you. Let's just go through those now. Option A,
Okay, let us know what page you're on. 102?
Yep.
Got it.
so option A in your book, it had demo at 30,000, should have been 40. See that change?
Yep.
Everybody's got the one time, see that?
Okay. that one.
You're right over that one, or we've got the sheets in here, but either way,
Okay,
that went from 30 to 40. Everyone tracking?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm lost.
Yeah, I'm lost too.
but the
Go back
price
on.
is still 920,000.
That's 40,000.
You see that?
And that 40,
Which one every time?
that's
Right now, here,
40,000
that's
actual,
40.
not 20 and 20, that's a 40,000
Mhm.
total, okay,
Say first, second,
okay.
Yeah.
Between, so it's,
It's demoing the kitchen cafeteria here, the old, one-story parts of the old building. It's demoing right through here, demoing the old wrestling multipurpose lower level gym. It's demoing both upper and lower levels of this section here. It's demoing this, and it's demoing the upper, right through here.
Okay.
Upper level of that gym. The locker rooms and the balcony of that gym.
all right.
That's all 40,000. So does everyone know where we're at still?
Yep.
40? All right. New construction's 58. And then the renovation number was off too. It's 102. It was like 120,
So it's 102 for renovating.
102. Yep.
But the total number is correct?
Yep, all the numbers are.
Oh, got it.
Yep, all the construction was done on. When we estimated all the work, we did a takeoff of the square footage of each area that we're doing, and that's how we estimated. So that's why numbers changed. While we're changing numbers, let's change them. Let's go to option B.
Mhm.
So that one demo abatement should have said 40,000, didn't say anything. That's 40,000 again. And then the next thing would be 58,000. And then the renovate existing is 102 of them.
Okay.
Because again, we are the same.
So again, like on the option A and B, where it says site and civil, that's parking lot. No?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's parking lot, it's parking lot drainage, corrected drainage, it's sidewalk, stuff like that. yeah.
So all those, we could have that on a separate line item if we decide that we want that over and above the parking lot, over and above the building of the school. So we could take off like 3 million, 34.
You could, bear in mind, I caution you to go too crazy with too many line items in that if we're gonna move the front door over here, expanding the parking lot, yes, but reconfiguring your entrance and your drop, to make it work with a new front door over here, you're gonna have some civil work. You're gonna have some sidewalk and some work.
Yeah, I get that part of it. So, but that would change significantly from what this is showing. So you could show this, but then show it what it would be like taking that out, and if people could see what,
You could.
just doing that in there.
And again, I think it's very consistent. I'll keep saying this, when we get to two options, we can definitely start parsing all that out. Possibly eliminating some of it, not even testing it, if you like, you don't feel it's money well spent. We're all about lowering the number, and the lower the number, the higher likelihood the thing passes, right? So.
Well, and two, not that these aren't excellent ideas. could we possibly think of, like, if we do the practical, break this down into phases? Phase 1 is doing just the basics, what we need to get done. And over a 5-year plan, is the public willing to say, well, yes, we'd be willing for a phase 2, and this would include this?
The only thing that you gotta care about is you have to go out for another. You don't wanna keep
Still.
going out for votes. So you don't wanna go hit them and then go again in 3 years and campaign again.
However, if they know that going into it, that might be an option, because maybe they don't want to take that hit right up front with the way things are right now, maybe.
So you're saying they vote on it now, but then it,
No,
Oh.
she was saying just educate them now that you can vote yes now, but there is more coming. That's what she was saying.
Mhm.
The other thing is, keep in mind, there might be some things when we get to that, that's why we said, gotta work with your municipal advisor, is you might be able to feel someone's city might have on some of the cool stuff. You could leverage some of your LTFM to pay for some stuff long term. So there's some things we can look at doing above and beyond just roughly. All right, so option C, kind of update those numbers. Sorry, got off that. Yeah, we have option C down on there. So from what was in the book, so again, the demo would be 40,000. The new construction is 48.3, less new construction there, because I'll explain why in a moment. And then again, 102 renovation. And then your Bird Island numbers, you'll see how that may stay the same. The other thing I wanted to point out was Aaron, in the original book on option C, was the dashed red line about where we have new construction. It erroneously went around that classroom wing. And option C, we're saying, you got it up here. Option C, we're saying, let's renovate that classroom wing. We still take down the office, kitchen, cafeteria, and the 3-story section.
Oh, this is Bird Island now.
Bird Island, sorry.
Yep.
This one, they had that going on.
The original book,
Got it.
the red dot, the dashed line around this whole thing.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Thought that was wrong. I did that too.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, I seen that. It's like, how come
Yeah,
it's
there's
not demoing that?
Okay, so it goes here.
So many diagrams, it's easy to get so many options, you're confusing the consultants.
Did our job.
And then option D, there, you'll see the new numbers for as far as demo and new construction. So to your point, Randy, we will get a summary table that breaks all that down and get those floor plans released.
For sure. So in Bird Island, if we go back to like option A, when they're doing just the west side there, that 38,500 square feet, I should be able to get an idea, but does that include the gym?
Yeah, that's everything,
That is everything?
Yep.
Okay,
including the lower level.
okay.
Yep.
So that one facilities member asked about, are we spending too much on the old versus new and just what those numbers are? So if I just take your new construction, it's roughly $500 a square foot versus renovating 200. I mean, is that?
Seems though having new construction shouldn't be that much, but it should be closer to.
I got 398 if you use these
400.
numbers.
Yeah, 398.
And renovation is 169. Is that?
That's about right, yep.
Okay.
So yeah, there's money in renovating for sure.
So, okay, so 398 for new, and what was it for?
I'll get you, I'll get you,
Okay,
let me make a nice neat table.
all right.
for all that. Then you don't have to
Sounds
go
good.
down, break down different numbers.
So we are still money ahead.
All right, option C. That makes Bird Island become the K4. These rooms are also got nice big rooms with individual toilets. They should be used for the toilets. So early childhood stays here. K4 moves over there. We really have quite a bit of square footage over here now. So when we still demo the same portions. When we come back and build new, we remember we had that middle school section up here.
Mhm.
That goes away because they slide down here. And these rooms get a little bit bigger. So your middle school, high school spend, to save money, we left the district office here and then made this a little bit smaller. So business was here. We moved business to here. And then our new construction for the office would be smaller. The new footprint would be smaller. So by leaving the district office, we just had, once you take all these kids out of here, you've got extra square footage. So how are you going to efficiently use it? And this is as efficient as we come up with.
Okay, question for you over at the Bird Island site, on the east side of the big gym.
East side of the big gym.
Mm-hmm. Since that'll still be used for the high school sports over there, is there any reason we can't have lockers on that east side, north and south, running parallel? Because that's always seems to have been the problem, because if they're gonna be going over there, where are they gonna have their locker rooms for boys and girls and visiting team?
Where is the locker rooms?
Underneath.
Underneath the stage.
Oh.
They're down in here.
Yep, boys stayed here, and the girl, or visitor home, whatever you want to call it, boys and girls. The girls was in the bottom.
Right.
Three-story section.
So one, could we remodel the existing one under the stage and then just add one on the east side?
Yeah, the challenge underneath is, so we gotta go through state plan review and all this, and there's no ADA accessibility down there. That's what I worry about. I think the state would, I don't think they'd approve it.
Well, we have two stairways going down there. Could we have one stairway with, are you talking for,
A lift or a-
yeah, you could do a chair lift going up and down on the one,
You might be able to do something on that back.
Yes.
stairwell here.
right?
That's the problem with it.
Because it's a nice wide stairway. That could be for the ADA going down that way and in and out. But I think it'd be wise to look at putting a locker, some locker rooms on the east side of that gym.
I guess my thought process was if in option A and B, this Bird Island would primarily be used for performance athletics and things. In C and D, you're making it to school again. So I kind of thought high school athletics may come back over here. That was my thought process, but I could be wrong.
I think we're gonna need that gym for high school too, as we do right now. I don't think that'll change, because the girls use the gym here in Olivia for volleyball. The guys use the big gym in Bird Island for basketball.
Yeah.
Even when we had elementary there, that's what they did.
What do they do for baseball? I mean, again,
They
Minor
practice in there too.
the practice, but locker rooms and such, they use,
Baseball doesn't really.
they don't need
Yeah,
anything in there?
spring.
Okay. Just when they're in their spring?
If we start going down this path, we'll find, we'll
Figure that
find a
out.
spot. I think those toilets are drawn a little bit big. I think.
Well,
Those look huge.
I'd put, yeah, we could put some on the side.
Mhm.
So is that what I'm
Yes,
hearing from the group?
yes.
Is to show locker rooms there, or locker room?
Or renovating the old one.
Well, the one old one we can't, but you can't, this one is.
Yeah.
No, he meant the
Oh,
one
that's
under the
fine.
stage. So yeah, that would save money too if we could renovate the locker room under the,
Well, this is, keep in mind, this is adding a locker room, this is gonna add to option C.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if it's needed, you can certainly show that.
And you could still have that emergency exit out there too, to get out of the gym that way, if you did one locker room over that way.
Yeah, we'll come back, we'll show an option, if I put one here,
Mhm.
we'll show an option to put maybe two locker rooms, 1 and 2.
Because do we
Not
need,
much is underground these days anymore.
do we need a emergency exit on that east side of that gym like there is now? There's a double doors there. Do we need that for
Yeah,
people
you
get
need-
out?
You need a fire egress, and
Right.
that's what I gotta look at. when we
Mhm.
replace things, so.
Okay.
But marching orders, I'm here is add a locker room, that's, add at least one locker room over there. And then we'd have that money to renovate the existing or replace it.
So question, as long as we're on C then, those toilets are huge, those two. We do have some there already. And we do, are
No,
we
the-
getting
the
rid of
big-
the concessions?
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we bring that concession back and leave those toilets as they are and just remodel them?
Yeah, and we can look at that, because if this is gonna stay, again, I was thinking this more in elementary and not so high school sports on this option. So yeah, we'll look at getting concessions back in there.
Wait, Jim, on that, we would, I mean, we gotta keep using the gym at Bird Island, don't we? I mean, there's no way we
I-
have everything done
I
there.
wish Derek was here, because I don't think that there's a way to do this without using that gym in Bird Island.
Yeah, we'd have to build a new one.
You have to use it for boys and girls basketball. You
Yeah.
have to use it.
Mhm.
Just the way it is.
On the refurbishing price, just because it's a large item, so like in Bird Island refurbishing, does that include any roofing if only that west side is done, or that's already
The
assumed
roofing
that?
has got, it doesn't have the roofing that you recently approved.
Okay.
But it does have redoing this gym roof that you kind of kick that can down the road.
Just that piece.
Yeah, that
Okay.
piece, yep.
That's
Oh,
all
just
it
that
would
little
be.
piece there.
That
Okay.
small gym.
The rest, I mean, I see it's listed separately, but that's,
Okay.
okay.
So not the whole roof on the old gym,
Yeah,
just,
yeah, no, the whole roof is in this option.
okay, because
On
thought
the old
Garland,
gym.
I thought Garland said that old gym roof was good.
No, if you look at their sheet, I think they had it.
When we
for the
walked
next-
up there.
Next 2 or 3 years.
It'll have to, well, when the old part comes down, there's really nothing you can do with it till now. I think that's kind of the thing. He said, don't do anything because they really can't fix the problem until that east side is down.
It is something you
think.
can pull out and do with LTFM down the road if you want. It's something you can look at.
And-
But, you're gonna demo on this, and we talked to, we brought 2 demo contractors out there with this. We didn't just ballpark this. And, both of them said, both of them were like, so you want me, let me get this straight. You want me to come here and pull down a 3-story section next to 2 1-story sections and not damage them? So, just so you know, they're both were like, if you're gonna demo, they recommend the demo on the whole thing, but we're trying to find a way to save you. It's expensive to shore everything up and protect everything as you demo a slice or something, so.
The same roofing question then in Olivia, the only new roof then that included in this would be the new construction roof. The rest of it,
Over the, what we're showing here is the main office and then, the media center area. So there's 2 sections in there.
that would be included in
Yeah.
the sports.
Stuff that
Okay.
was coming up on, like in the next few years,
Oh.
needing to be replaced is included in the numbers, but that,
This is new construction.
Okay,
So I guess it's part of that.
that area, not on the old, not where we're sitting now. That was
That we
already
took out.
separate.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, everything you guys approved.
all right,
yeah.
took out.
all right.
We looked at any needs that were identified in the next 5 years that you haven't already approved in your LTFM.
All right.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, back to that air conditioning thing, is we do have A and B, all these options. Bird Island as well, adding cooling to the kids, all the classrooms, adding cooling to the gym, all that stuff. So that's something we can revisit in subsequent meetings. So,
Question on the square footage for the kindergarten rooms and the second, third grade. What are the square footages on those?
we'll get those here. These are larger. These are equivalent or similar to what you got over here across the hall.
Probably like 1,200.
About 1,200. They're larger than, about 1,200.
Okay,
Which is more typical for a kindergarten classroom. They're bigger than regular classrooms.
all right. Nice to know. Um,
I also say the options C and D on the Bird Island. Probably want to break down our staff meeting because when we had staff, we had the options A and B, and then now that they haven't really seen. I want to make sure that we got enough spaces to accommodate all the specials at elementary, as far as special ed and intervention and all that, so. And then lastly, option D was making, kind of the Kahuna makes, Bird Island early childhood through 6th grade, which leaves only 7-12 over here. It gets down to the point kind of back to where you were, and you really don't need that wing anymore. You can abandon it in place where you're just showing it coming out, you know, not putting any money towards it. This would all be, again, this is new, this is consistent, with what you've seen.
Could we leave that wing in there just in case things turn around and people start coming to the area? Then we have that option of always adding more classrooms. The classrooms are there instead of tearing it down.
You can abandon like you followed them like you did before. It was shut down before. but-
Yeah.
Or-
We used a couple of the rooms over there, but that was, most of them were empty. Storage.
I thought I was gonna make you happy, got rid of the damn courtyard.
Yeah.
And now you want to leave it in?
I'm on the fence on that one. I hate the damn courtyard, but it's nice having space, flexible spaces where you can, like when we started the robotics program, we had the space over in that area where we were able to take up shop. And then when we brought the middle school or the 5th and 6th grade over, we had to take them to the other side. And then they got everyone over here
I
and
think
now they don't have room at
this
all.
option was when we asked, Teresa asked, this option, you know, you still need all three science with just 712 here, probably do, like, I don't know, but this one probably needs to be tested a little bit more.
Yeah. And
But I
also,
think you've got quite a bit of, your square foot per student is quite high.
you know, and the nice thing about leaving that there, like you were saying about having the extra spaces, depending on where we want to go with the school district, maybe we want to entertain more technology, PSEO class type thing, prep that, you know, who knows what we want to do there, but yeah, at least you have that option.
That, I kind of see that's a good point. I kind of see this room being used for that, as PSEO type opportunity.
Because there could be like a culinary class going on in there down the road if we want to bring back culinary.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I do want to caution, what, so the guidelines for sites, square foot, acres per site. 10 acres plus an acre for every 100 students in the building. That's kind of the guidelines, not kind of guidelines, it is the MD, or that's what primary education guidelines, it is their guidelines. You got 3.5 acres over here. Suddenly putting, I mean, this hardly any green, I know you got some green space across the way over here behind the Catholic school you guys use, I know that towards the baseball. But there's no real green space on this, we're tight up against the highway and we've got no parking or anything like that, so that, would I recommend, like, that's, I've seen sites with downtown Minneapolis bigger than that. It's a really small site, that's all I guess all I'm saying, you know that, you live here, just don't want to lose sight of that, so.
So are you saying the state might not even approve?
They can't deny your review and comments. We're gonna have to put in the review and comment that this was pointed out, that it was,
Okay.
it's your desire to do it. They can't say no. They're, I can't remember what they call it. They just they like flag it, so to speak. You know, they don't give you a negative review comment, they give you some comments.
Well, in Bird Island, if my memory serves me right, looking at that playground that's on the east side there, there's a playground on the east side of the school.
Yep.
Okay.
There's that old abandoned road,
Mhm.
there's kind of hard surface play area with basketball,
Yeah.
and then right over here you got that little.
So on the very east side of that, there's a fence. And I'm pretty sure I remember cars, the staff parking on the east side of that fence by that alley, parking east and west.
Yeah, they used to.
So there is parking there that's
It's not a
available
lot,
just to
though.
walk. Well, it's not a lot, no, but then, you know, then you have the streets and,
Does the school own, which property do they own on the other side of the street?
do you know?
I have no idea. I don't think, which street are you talking about?
Like where the playground
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
What used to be a street?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much it is over there.
And does the city still own the street or was it actually abandoned and given to the school?
That's what I'm wondering.
I
don't
would
know.
assume they would have to give it to the school. I don't know.
I could find out from,
Be good just to know for.
Yeah, I'll find that out.
If I'm,
I'll look into that.
Yeah, no, but we don't.
Okay, so.
All right, site. Okay, remember, there's sites along, this is 23.5 acres, I think, or something like that. Long enough, so it did fit on the screen, so we cut it in half, so. Again, you move your main entry over here, they're trying to cut in a new, line up the entry point here, and have an exit point down here. For bus and carrier drop out, get that flow to work better. You have about 153 parking spots now. And what we're showing here, we really talked about this, we've got about 250 here in this option, so it gives you about roughly 100 more parking to help with your stadium events and everything. In front door over here, the nice new maintenance garage here. We talked to home mover, got pricing on to move that over here to the green space. This, if you go this option, just reminding you, you've got these practice fields right over here with the goalposts and everything. It obviously cuts into those practice fields, right? So I encourage board member and administrators to, I think it will move you to talk to adjacent landowners about their willingness to introductory discussions on it if you ever entertain selling 3 acres or so.
How many?
3.
Three, okay.
Yeah.
We can get that to you as well. The other thing is, we do have money in the estimate for you expand your hard surfaces, you need to deal with stormwater runoff. We got about 3,300, 3,500, 3,000, 3,500 bucks to have an environmental study person to come in and tell us if there's any wetlands in that drainage area back there. If it's not, then we can get an excavator in there to make it bigger. If it's wetlands, you can't disturb it, you have to do something different. So that's something,
What would be more cost effective, doing that or have somebody pattern tile it with some drain tile? Put a little drain tile in there.
it's not, the drain tile is not the problem, it's, you
If it's a wetland, you can't touch it.
can't touch it. And the drain tile, we
We're
are
buying it
we
out
are,
and exchanging it with another wetland somewhere else.
we are putting drain tile in places here to help your drainage, but I'm like right here and on the way to that swale on the way to the stadium on this west side. But the problem is you have to detain the water. You can't just let it run off. You got to store it somewhere and let all the sediment and everything that's in there settle out. And then it can discharge into natural waterways. So, I think it's TNR. I don't think you're in a floodplain, a flood watershed district here. I don't think you are in a watershed district, so it'd be TNR on this one.
That's part of why it's important to make overtures to your neighbors, right out, because if that is a wetlands, you need to find a spot to put a,
At least a
man-made
pond,
stormwater.
but if you're gonna do it, at least if we have to do another pond, I would buy a 3-acre strip right along here and give you more practice space because you would be losing practice space here. So
Do you know, board members or facility committee members, does anybody have relationships with the owner of that land?
I'm pretty sure I know who the gentleman is.
I think it's Larry.
Uh-huh. Well, okay, so I'm just gonna make this statement out loud. I just feel like, no, it's not just how I feel. Doing the extra parking lot definitely will have to be proposed just by itself, because doing this extra expense, when you walk through that parking lot on a game night, it seems like there's a lot of space to drive around. And if you just put signs saying enter here and go out that way, there is like a horseshoe, you can go out. With the way we're sitting with our economy, and just from being part of the community and the community talking to me, we're going to have to we need to be practical. And not that you can't dream and envision, but this is going to be way over the top. If you're going to think, I just highly doubt they're going to vote for buying extra land, moving the practice field. It's just going to put it way over the top. We need to be practical if we want this to sell. I just know the community members, and I'm not saying this to be negative Nancy. I'm just being real with everybody.
Yes.
And
That's,
I don't want it just to pass by 51% and have 49% of the people being ticked off. We need to bring our communities together. We need everybody to come on board. And by offering something and letting Bird Island have a piece of the pie and Olivia, I think it'll go. But if you make it too grandiose and too crazy without separating out some of these things, I think we're going to be right back to where we were. And I love your plans. You have some beautiful stuff that you've done. I love it. I just think, in all respect to the community members, we just have to
again, yep,
separate stuff out.
your comments are spot on. I mean, you all live here. I mean, we do our best to get to know the communities. We work in communities all over the place, but you're the only ones who really know the community here. And what we try to do is bring ideas to you, do some possibility thinking, and then we need you to be candid and say, we like that, we don't like that. That's exactly what we need here.
When a dream world, I love everything.
Well,
That's
but
where
at the
the
end,
survey kicks in. That's where it kicks in, because we didn't dream this up on our own. This came from people within your district. So we do have to test it, to your point, 100%. And how it fits in the grand context of the overall tax. If it's lower on the priority list, one of the first things to get back on. Let's get that in hand.
Because when Brent has referred several times to testing things, so that you're aware, once we get it down to something that the group is comfortable with, we can test, at most 2 full options, but then within that, we test attributes within those options. And we're testing it in terms, basically trying to find out what do people value, what will make it more likely to pass or less likely.
Yeah. that's a
And,
good point. So won't be tested, just say you picked E and C to test. It wouldn't just be asked in the survey about A in totality and C in totality. Mike's point, components are also tested. So you can create
So
a
you're
hybrid-
saying
create a
somebody-
hybrid on it.
Yeah.
Somebody might say, I prefer A, but I like this from B
Exactly.
and C.
Yep.
Right.
Or I like this, or we need to be even more frugal and I don't want to spend any money on stadium or parking or.
Yeah.
Auditorium.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
exactly, like I love that option, but if you have that stadium in there, no way.
Right.
Or if you put the stadium in, then I vote for it. It's those types of things. What makes it more or less buoyant,
Mhm.
right?
How many of those different options can you put in a survey comfortably? I mean,
There's, the
before it gets too long.
survey people will tell that, because you're right, you can saturate the
Right.
respondents and they, get confused. It also gives us that credence to, is the stadium its own question? Is this part its own second question? It doesn't jeopardize the
Mhm.
educational question.
That's what I'm
Or it's
thinking.
auditorium its own question, or, that, it'll also give us insight into that.
Because Brent, we all agree we need to do something.
Yeah.
And I want something to pass. I'm just nervous that it's getting,
Totally,
and
totally agree.
Well,
we
it's
can't,
not-
we
it's
can't
not
just
getting
keep.
there. We're learning about it. And then part of what we're gonna do is
Is refine
we're
it.
gonna refine this.
So we brought all the options, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we're trying to start with the 4 options, narrow down to 2 options. Once we get it there, you refine it. You refine those options. You know what I mean? And so
Okay.
that's definitely, we're just trying to give all the options to start, but we definitely are planning on refining it and testing it.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing, Brent alluded to this is, while we have a lot of ideas, we've spoken to a lot of people. So a lot of what you're seeing, people who live and work in the spaces every day thought these were higher priorities. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, hey, it's a high priority, but it'd be nice to have, but we just can't afford it. At the end of the day, what our collective mission is, the best plan is the one that the community holistically is going to support.
Mhm.
So what does that look like?
Right. And I get that too. I can see where you ask the staff and the administration, because they work here. You have to realize, and you do realize that, of course, they're going to want,
Yeah.
A lot.
Everything.
and who wouldn't? If it's going to be where you're going to show up to work every day. I mean, who wouldn't? I do, when we get done, before we go, I just have to go through my list of questions. I
Yeah.
probably asked some of them already, but just because they're questions. So go ahead.
That's why we're here. It's a working session.
So
Teresa,
the
I
other
wanna-
thing- the other site stuff, just at a high level, it's in the books, you read it, is the new track, right? Reconstruct the subbase, all new track, all new rubber surfacing, new concessions and team room, correct the drainage through here, fencing around to control access to the site, fencing around to control access to the athletic areas, keep spectators separate from athletes. Some goalposts, some stuff, some scoreboard, fixing the drainage through here, right out the window here.
Emergency parking.
Oh,
at the-
yeah, the parking lot
at the
here.
parking lot, oh, that could be gravel, we could save some money there, right now we're showing
Okay.
it as paved, so those are some of the options when we start next meetings,
Yeah, once we get it out, we can start taking, once we eliminate the 2 options, on the 2 options, we can start pulling some
Okay.
minute stuff out, so.
Can we also get, with that track, can we also get a bid on it just to reseal it and do that for now? Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I think that track, the newer stuff, the track itself was probably built, it's over 15 years, because I'm thinking about my youngest daughter, how old she is, because she ran cross country and track. So if that track, had that subsurface not been so great, it's held up until now. And now it's starting, I mean, probably in the last 2 years, it's getting all the cracks and whatever. So is it really that it's that bad? Or can we just resurface it again and get another 5-10 years out of it?
You
That's
talked
my
about
question.
doing core samples. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what we probably should do
Right.
to see what our, so
I would like that to go ahead and get done now. I mean, then we know that question.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah.
If you look at most of the land around here is bad. I mean, you look at the street project up here, they're taking 4 feet out.
Yeah.
Because they never did that right before. So I would assume it's the same, but simple.
Do some soil boring.
Yeah, just do
Okay.
soil borings, then we
We'll get,
know.
we'll get a company out to do that, and put you a proposal not to do that. You pay them, you pay us.
Mhm.
And it's mobilization out here. Why find someone local as I can, so you don't have to pay the travel, and then, it's roughly $1,000 a bore. So probably do 4 borings. Yes.
We'll see we'll see what the borings say, but that type of cracking is indicative that the base is starting to fail.
Right.
Right? It's not gonna, it's
Okay.
very likely
But
it's gonna.
that's, you know, I mean, to Randy's point, I mean, the soils, there's a reason they took all that out of the street, so, but you're right, you can certainly do, you know, you can put some minor, just soft, to maybe repair some soft spots and resurface it. Just know you're not, if you get a crack through here somehow, don't come yelling at us.
Okay.
And
Well, you
maybe
know-
someone did something in there already that no one was aware of. I mean,
Right.
I doubt it, but it'd be nice to
Yeah.
know.
And you know, these are questions, you know, I know I'm asking a lot of questions, so these are questions people ask me and I know I'm going to be hit up with, so I'm going to throw them out here because this is the stuff that's going to get
No,
asked.
you gave us great direction, get more, we're happy to do that. The more information we all know, the more conviction we can have in the
They
solution.
did the roads in Bird Island, remember did the sewer project in Bird Island? And they dug down to 6 feet and then they all relayered it up. There's cracks in the roads now. So I mean, I don't think there's really nothing you can do about it. To a point,
Right.
you can,
Minnesota.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
the more you get, obviously, and you get water to drain down to below the frost line is obviously when it's heavy clay, wet clay, it's just.
If you do fix the draining around there would probably
Well,
help a lot.
That'll contribute as. that'll be
Yeah,
positive.
Mhm.
Yep, that's fair. That's a fair question.
On your point, Teresa, with the multiple referendums, I wouldn't really like that idea, but I kind of like the idea for some of the other options. Because, you know, there's other districts in our area that are similar situation that we are. And a lot of those, I hear people from those communities saying, we're not voting yes on anything until we talk to our neighbors. So to me, going back to this original, do what we have to do and leave a lot of these extras, whether it's the auditorium or all this other stuff, as pie in the sky to say, all right, let's work out a deal and then we can do some of these and share them and come back as kind of a token to appease some push down the road, maybe.
Mhm.
This is what we're talking about. This is the old road here. You can see
Mhm.
there's actually trees growing in the middle of it now. Yeah, so if we can find out who owns, you know, and you're saying there was parking over here.
Yes,
Mhm.
I'll find out. I'll let you know and then if you want to let.
I can do that.
Yeah, if we could find out, that'd be great. If there's any restrictions there. So you saw this before, numbers haven't changed. These numbers that we updated with you are. Nothing, one thing that we can get into right now, and you see this line down here, it's construction provision allowance, EBD. Depending on the time it takes to build consensus and get a referendum passed, and when you design it and bid it, you may not be bidding some of this work until potentially 2024. So, you know, these numbers would work to build something in 2023. We just gotta, my point is here is, we need to monitor inflation of the world, right?
Absolutely.
Whenever we do go to referendum, that we have enough money to build what you want built. So it's not really, leave it at that. We'll continue to monitor inflation and make sure that anything needs for justice will do it before referendum.
So with that being said, when we do lock in with you guys, like you were explaining the other night at our meeting that had we have locked in the first referendum, we would have been short like $10 million.
Yeah, I think we're-
So with this being said, if we lock in with you, to protect yourselves too in building, I mean, if prices still skyrocket, where do we
So-
lock in and what's the percentage that you won't go too much or, you know what I mean, to protect you and to protect us?
Keep in mind, all of these, we, and it's common, people refer to them as prices and even estimates and everything. these are our budgets, okay? Then we would go through, once the referendum passes, we would go through a detailed design process, okay, where there would be plenty of board and community involvement in that, where all of the very specific details are figured out. Okay, well, we have enough budget to do what's necessary, but there'd be a very detailed process. Then we go out and we solicit competitive bids on all the work. Okay, and those bids come to the district. Okay, we provide all the design services. The bids come to the district. Okay, and kind of I think where you're going with it is we want to know in advance of that process. Once we know the timing, we can project a reasonable amount of construction inflation to account for that, because we'll know the market conditions, at that time.
So we-
Okay, and once we do, I was gonna say, well, and this would be obviously with these numbers are set in advance of the referendum, of course.
Mhm.
Okay?
So when we work through the process of what we talked about more this evening, but when we get to the point where a referendum is imminent, we will put some dollar amount in here.
Okay.
We'd be prudent to allow for some inflation.
Mhm.
And it's your money. It doesn't go to us, it's your money. And if it doesn't get used, great, it goes back to the taxpayers or you do whatever.
That's what I was
you
gonna ask too, if we come under budget too.
want. Yeah, no, it's all your money. It all goes to you.
All right.
And we have an opportunity to make sure it doesn't exceed the budget. If it does, we have to redesign it at our expense to get it back under the budget. So we have skin in the game.
Okay.
It's, the comment I made about you a minute ago is more just because we're at 40-year highs of inflation. It's a hockey stick on the trend line.
Mhm.
And right when you went to referendum, it was right where it took off. So it would have been really bad time. We're all collectively aware of where construction has kind of reset itself. 6 months from now, if you're for a referendum, 6 months from now, we'll be ready to set a referendum. We'll be 6 months more educated and we'll be able to dial it in for you.
And, there's concerns that as much as it shot up, the market could soften also if we get a recession, something like that. Those are things we watch every single day. We're just making you aware that right now, we did it in $2023.
Yep.
If it goes, it could go beyond that. We'd have to make an adjustment there, but there's no purpose in doing that right now.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
we got the time pass and just monitor the situation.
Yeah.
Get through the midterm. I mean, you hear everything from a recession to softening of inflation. So no one's no cigars here. Let's give it 6 months and
Yeah.
revisit that line.
But I think all the more reason that we make sure that the community is on board with this, because if we bring something to a vote in next year sometime and it doesn't pass, well, now we're just kicking that ball farther away and everything's going to cost more.
Traditional construction averages 5% a year. Okay, it's far above. If you think of a CPI as 2 to 3, traditional construction over the last 50 years is 5. Right now, as friends said, popped up 30 and we're looking at 15%, but hoping that pulls back a bit. But even traditional is 5. If you're looking at pick a number, $50 million, that's $2.5 million just cost a delay. It's big. It's serious.
It used to, inflation was at 5%, and you would be a tax exempt entity could borrow at 3.5%. It would make no sense to wait. Every year you waited, you were losing half a percent.
Yeah.
You're better off to borrow than
Yeah.
to wait. Any questions on the options right now? I know you got a lot of questions. I got a list there. Any questions, options? Do we want to walk through Teresa's questions now, or do we want to finish?
I do have a question on the stadium, on the gymnasium, on all 4 options.
Mhm.
You talking like demoing that whole balcony part, taking it down?
Think of it this way, it doesn't impact the box, so to speak. It's your 2 locker rooms in there and that balcony on top of that, taking that down and then put your standard retractable bleachers in there. And it, again, that's something, again, it applies to all 4 options, but if that's something we get where you want to eliminate some money, we could probably do that.
What do you,
I thought,
just throw out a number, what's that cost to do that?
done this for 30 years, every time someone says that to me, it's bit me in the you know what. I will get you
Come
that number.
So does
I
that,
just mentioned it to some people and they're like, well, why would you do that?
Well, and it's mostly, we're done with those locker. I actually think if we have time, we should go walk in the boys and girls locker rooms and walk in those pool locker rooms. And I think that came up, and I think we should all put the eyes on them. Your money, your building.
in these plans with the gyms too, like, does that, when you take out that balcony, is that a new gym floor in there?
Where we took it out, everything from, yes, we have new gym.
But the whole gym, I mean, how about in Bird Island too? Is that an all new gym floor in Bird Island
We don't,
also?
For maintenance in Bird Island, I don't think, but I think that's the
Floor's
state.
fine, yeah.
So is Bird Island, is that a whole new gym floor in there also?
No, that's what I'm staying.
We have
floor there.
bleachers over there.
Yeah, probably bleachers.
In the main gym, are you
Yeah, the
talking?
big gym.
Yeah, that was just keeping that. Is there been any troubles with that floor?
No, it's really thin right now. I think it's been barrel sand twice.
We've had water damage a couple times.
We have bleacher, we're
That's
checking.
over here.
Yeah,
That was over
bleachers.
here.
I know
That was
one
over
of
here,
them.
he said. but-
If we're gonna go through that, maybe price out a gym floor in there too for longevity. No?
What about
Yes?
this, that Quonset gym?
I'll look at the report here. I can't remember everything off the top of my head.
The auxiliary gym?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's got new flooring, because that's that old VCT, so we put it in.
Okay.
So that one's, that's figured in already,
Oh, yeah.
but you don't know what the life expectancy would be on the existing one?
It depends on the thickness of the John's point, how much is left in the.
That plastic floor.
No, the plastic, the little gym's gotta get replaced. The main competition gym over there, how much that life has got left in it, so.
Well, we can't do any barrel sanding on that at all, because you can look at the standards and the floor comes up around them. And that if I had to shoot from my hip, probably 5 to 8 years left, I mean, before we started having issues.
So you're saying the floor is not flat in there?
No, if you go out by the standards or the volleyball standards, go in.
Okay,
We noticed it when we put the,
It's like a collet for floor, right?
yeah.
okay,
When you bring
Oh.
the squeegee, you gotta go circular,
sure.
and then
Or
right now it looks like it's level, but when we sand that down,
You can feel it or
Yeah.
tell them.
so.
And also in Bird Island, I mean, even on like the first option, there's no new construction, but I'm assuming they're renovating obviously we're putting some walls back or a few walls back or whatever. That's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, a ton of renovation, and that's something that is, and we're perfectly willing to have, let's look at the locker rooms tonight, and the next time we get together, let's meet at Bird Island.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Mm.
Yep.
That
I haven't-
density at the main, I mean, we talked about getting rid of that second story as part of the existing building, right? So when we redo the locker rooms underneath it, we get rid of that second story, what's left is that mezzanine. And to get access to that AD access, you're gonna have to add an elevator in. Just, again, that was something, that's the precipitous to getting rid of that area. Expand the gym, put retractable bleachers over there, allowing more flexibility.
It's very nice to see that square footage there too. I can't quite envision either how big that is. I know it's about as long as the gym, obviously,
Yeah,
but does it,
exactly.
is it 40, 50 feet? I don't know how deep that area is.
Yep.
but,
It's
Yeah.
pretty big.
It's gotta be.
Yeah, make a big gym in there then.
It's bigger than you think.
Yeah.
Through the process stuff, we want to go.
Okay, I haven't,
Teresa's questions. and we can-
okay. So a lot of them have been answered, but now that I'm looking at option A, it says no playground in Bird Island. I have to speak for that playground that's on the east end of the school. You'd be amazed the children that are there after school at night playing basketball and playing over there. Whenever I drive by, there's kids playing there all the time. I think it would really hurt if we abandoned that playground. And even though if someone, they would want option A, just to not, to get rid of that would be,
Let me correct you. We wouldn't touch that. What we would do as part of option B is we would add an early childhood playground. So in option A, we wouldn't add an additional.
No, she's saying this option A is different maintenance wise, even though option A, there's no not school function. It serves almost like a city park type of situation, and they're just saying to be good stewards that maybe they might want to look at playground.
But- Update it, you're saying?
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, I mean, there's some nice equipment there. There's a few things might have to get replaced, but
I think if you're gonna do that, a lot of that's old, and part of our problem right now is that we've got, everything is old, and we end up spending just tons of money every year. You know, Denny, what was the number on Chapel, just this fiscal year? Chapel, we've spent like $60,000 to come out and,
We're at, so far this year, I think, I thought it was like 30.
or maybe it was 30, okay.
Yeah. I didn't,
To your
I
point,
didn't grab that
But-
paper yet.
The more you
Same
put in,
thing-
the more you gotta make.
Yeah, and then the same thing, so we've got a slide that's broken on this play equipment here, and we've been trying to get that fixed forever. And we just can't get somebody to come out and do anything with it. If it were new, it wouldn't even be an option. So if we're gonna do something over there, I guess I don't wanna just we'll leave the whatever seesaw. Can you have seesaws anymore? Probably not.
I think, next time we have an opportunity, I think we should be over there and let's go look at it.
Yeah.
You guys tell us what you want priced up, not a problem.
Okay, well, that was that question. Okay, let me just read through this and make sure I.
Denny, did Chapel ever get back to you with the quote on furnaces? Did Chapel get back to you with the
Okay.
quote for the gym over there?
Through the air,
Yeah, and furnaces and such?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my question.
Could you email it to me or text it to me or
Yeah.
something? That'd be
So I was
great.
gonna say, can I send it?
Perfect. Yep.
I know this is probably for a little ways down as we're going. Are we going to let local contractors bid on any of the work?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
all right.
Yeah, in fact, what we often do is, once we're to that point, we go and meet with local contractors to find out what are their expertise and capacities and things of that nature. And if the district, if the board wants us to, we'll develop bid packages that we can't just hand it to them, but that are designed to hit their sweet spot. We still, by law, we still have to competitively bid it,
Sure.
but it's something that, they should have a very good chance of getting. And it's,
During the
so-
design phase, we have design committees.
That'd be great.
One of the things we ask to just is what contractors are local, what are their capabilities, and what contractors, I know other contractors you've had very bad experiences with is, there's two sides to that coin. There's good contract, there's any contractors you don't want involved, and we want to make sure we're not inviting them to do.
Mhm.
so, but yes, local participation is always very important.
Sounds good. That hit, I think I asked all my questions.
I
Out of questions? I can't believe that.
All right.
She's gonna prepare more next time.
one other quick one,
Yeah.
with new infrastructure bills and such. Do you guys have teams that are looking for grant opportunities for schools? And what's out there?
Yeah, we're always researching it. It's, there are some opportunities, but many times, a lot of the stuff, when you're hearing about it talked about, at the federal level especially, it takes years before it gets to the state level through all the bureaucracy, and they figure out how are they going to dole it out and what are the rules and all of that. So
Mhm.
like the stuff that you've heard about these bills, that's still making its way from the feds to the state, and then the state has to figure out how do we actually manage this. So, but yes, we are on it all the time. We have lobbyists that that are contracted to us that are researching how do we get this for our clients.
Right.
We can
It's-
vote Jensen Burke then, and that's not a problem.
Yeah.
That's not a black hole.
No. But,
Well, from the school funding, I don't the right way.
yeah. But it's and then what we're constantly evaluating is, so many times there's so many strings attached to this stuff that it's I'm not sure it's a bargain or not. And it depends. It's case by case, but it's
Right.
schools.
No
stuff that-
shining light out there right now.
Nah,
The only one I've heard, districts down in the southern part of the state, one thing we haven't mentioned, again, I don't want to get minutia on it, is the state in their infinite wisdom adopted, state building code adopted ICC 500 code, which is a storm shelter code. So now you touch a building, you've got to build these bunkers for tornadoes. And I have heard a couple people getting some grants for those.
Football stadiums.
Football stadiums.
Seriously.
You found out what was that?
We-
A
I
grant?
know of a school that, yeah, got a nice solid football stadium classified as a tornado shelter. For athletic field somehow.
Hmm.
I'll give you that information.
I've seen, yeah, we,
That would have to be a concrete, like a
We'd
concrete,
love to see it, but-
grant-
Yeah,
we've seen gyms.
grandstand
it's
with a-
all, yeah, it's all concrete underneath,
Oh,
concrete block,
Yeah.
but they got their,
Because
got
with
paid
the
for.
HVAC systems, with COVID, you're supposed to upgrade your HVAC systems.
That was part of the ESSER.
That's all part of
That was
that.
qualified ESSER.
Say none, it's like $190 billion left out there.
It was, and it is, the way it was doled out. And that's another one, ESSER 3. And Minnesota in general, we, I think, we do a lot of work in Minnesota and the state of Wisconsin. And Wisconsin got far more dollars just in general. I guess the affluency of the state. It was, there's more money overall in the state of Minnesota, so they got less federal dollars. And then when they doled out to the individual school districts, they did it based on the affluency. So like poor metro areas got enormous sums of money. Other areas, rural areas that probably arguably needed more, tended to get less. And it's.
Is there still opportunity there to reapply again now? There's still funds in that, I believe, that aren't spent.
There's a lot of dollars unspent, but my understanding is most of it has been allocated.
Okay,
It's just the individuals that it got allocated to haven't spent it.
all right.
So would they, is there a possibility that they retract it and then reallocate it? Possibly. I'm not aware of any
That's the first
discussions.
round.
I want to say like 1.2.
I think you're right.
Have you signed that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I forget the exact numbers. There's two parts to it. About, I think it was like 300,000 had to go towards after-school programming to catch up on learning
Learning
loss.
loss, yeah.
So, we've used some of that for our, some after-school programming. We're still coming up with ways to do it. The rest of it can be, it still has to, there's a lot of qualifications that we have to follow, but some schools have really used it poorly, and they've been, they've put themselves in tough spots because they've hired a ton of people using this money.
And it's one-time money.
It's
Yeah.
one-time money,
I know.
and we've talked about doing some of that, but with the understanding that if we hire an extra person to help with this or that, well, it's either going to go away in a year, or we're going to have to figure out a way to afford it, which.
Yeah, you talked about HVAC. We have a client, Kenosha, Wisconsin schools, and we just had a meeting yesterday. They come up with another 15 million of ESSER, and they're spending a lot of theirs on HVAC over there because it's one-time money, right? Don't spend hard time spending it on staff because then you just have to get rid of the staff.
So can we reapply if we've already received once? Can we reapply for a new project if there's funds?
Yeah.
It wasn't really an application process. It was an allocation process.
Okay,
So like you were allocated X number of dollars.
all right.
The amount of unspent money out there is, there's a number of districts that have, like Kenosha, for example, their educational, like learning loss, they said, we can't even spend this. We don't need it. So they directed it toward facilities.
Mhm.
Okay.
So my point, if you had $500,000 left or something, whatever, ESSER 3 that you could use to offset some of this work, so.
Sure. It has to be spent by September 29th of '04.
Correct.
Yep.
2020.
So we would do like the ventilation work. and-
Yeah, 24.
Yeah.
Oh, for it.
Yeah.
We would do the work.
Same thing.
You could bite off a chunk like the ventilation in this end of the building that you're gonna keep.
Sure.
Are they looking at separate ventilation, HVAC systems in the remodel on the school for each wing?
Yep.
How are
Oh,
they-
yeah.
How many, like 4 different systems? or Just roughly.
We'll bring our mechanical designer engineer with us the next time, but it's
Okay.
Centralized air handlers with variable air volume boxes fully ducted to each room.
All right.
So each
Those are
room, each room,
units that sit on top of the roof? or-
no, we'll try to stay indoors as much as we can. I mean, your indoor unit will last you 40 years, a rooftop will last you 25. It just, not sitting in elements, right? So
Indoor units got a much better chance of being serviced,
Yeah.
understandably.
But they'll walk through that where, you know, what they're thinking of zoning, but each room will have individual comfort control.
You look in our environment, combines, the dust that's been out here, those outdoor units are plugged up constantly
Mhm.
lately. It's just
Yep.
tough.
Okay, so we had talked about that, what the purpose of tonight, no decisions had to be made, but we wanted to kind of, go through the details, allow you to ask questions, all that sort of thing. And again, we'll have other opportunities to do that. We also wanted to talk about how do we start to build consensus, and there's going to be multiple rounds of this. First is, as we said, is getting it down from 4 options to 2, and then maybe within those 2 options, kind of skinning it down, and then ultimately, the 2 goes to 1. But what we want to focus on, and we weren't sure because we haven't gotten a lot of direction, so we just wanted to share an idea with you, maybe what some of our other clients have done. Ultimately, you as a district, you tell us how you want to do it. This is just maybe a way to, kind of keep everybody focused one step at a time. Well, how do we get it from 4 to 2, so that we can, and the point there is, we need to get it so that as we start to engage more of the community, it's a little more digestible, just getting a hold of 2 options as opposed to 4. Second is when we start doing scientific testing on it, the max that we can test is 2 options. We test options within that, but 2 overall options. So how do we get from 4 to 2? Okay, and get it?
Any questions?
Ellie, you want to walk us through
Yeah, I
this?
can talk through. Come on, you gotta love my slide I made today. No, so it's kind of just like you said, our thought process on it is so have multiple meetings with you over the next few weeks is what we're thinking. And then the facility committee comes to a recommendation to the board for 2 options. And we're thinking that could potentially, the board either accepts that, rejects it, or modifies those options in the November 28th board meeting. Now, if you're not ready for that, it can be pushed out, right? I mean, we're not trying to push you at all. You need to be ready for it. So once there are 2 options, narrowed down to 2 options, okay? Then our thought process is that's when you start maybe putting together a facility task force. And that could just be the facility committee. I mean, it's up to you in the end. Or you could open it up to community members. You could open it up to more board, to staff, in the end. But just think about how you kind of want to form that task force. And if you want to, or just keep it with this one. At that same time that is going on, we'll start helping you create the survey that's gonna be for the community they'll start making the calls.
Yeah, we'll work with the professional surveyors, particularly in the survey questions, and then you guys get a chance to review it before it goes out.
Those questions, just a quick heads up on that, is because it's a scientific survey, the polling firm words them in a very specific way, so they're not biased at all. Okay.
They're not leading
But
questions.
we want your input on the content, but how it's worded, they're pretty particular on that.
And then along with that, our thought is that, and if you have a better idea on that, how to get the community to know this is all going on, we're open to it, but, kind of do a community invite mailer. And that's just so those will kind of be going on at the same time. So if we just start at the bottom with the community mailer, that will lead to a community tour of Olivia is our thought process. So we're going to open this building up to the community. We're going to do a tour. We're going to show, the 2 options, and then they can give some feedback, is basically where that would come. And then the next one would be a community tour of Bird Island. Same idea, right? Where they can come in and walk through it. As that is going on, the facility task force will be formed. The first meeting is kind of the same thing. You'll do the Olivia site tour and concepts, talk through it, come with what you like, what you don't like. Meeting 2, Bird Island. And then the top one, if you do the create the survey, you'll conduct the survey, which is probably a couple week time frame. Look at the survey results. And in the end, all of those 3 come together with the facility task force. And the task force then compiles all the data, takes the feedback from the tours, takes the survey results, takes the feedback from the two tours or the two, facility task force meetings, compiles it and comes up with a recommendation for the board on what to move forward with for the referendum. So like Mike said, this has worked with other districts. They'd have great success with it, but we are open to what works with you guys. So with that, I mean, just put some thought into it.
One thing with, if you do decide to expand your group into a task force, is we have to, you want to make that task force as representative in your entire voting public as you possibly can. You don't want to stack the deck with one particular group or another, because they'll come to the conclusion, let's do this, and then you're gonna go to polls and you're not gonna win, because it doesn't
Yeah.
represent the whole community, so.
The idea though is ultimately the board gets information from the task force, also has the survey, and then the board can make their own choice on do we take a recommendation from the task force? Do we take it? Do we reject it? Do we modify it? Again, at the end of the day, the board has full control. They're the only ones who can
Final
make the
decision.
decision. Our role is to just facilitate the process and try to get as much input as possible and give you the information necessary to make an informed decision.
We're also there to help with all the communications with these people. One thing you'll learn as you work through us over the next so many months is our job to build you the tools and the talking points in the deck. But the more talking this group can do, the better. Because no matter what we do, we're looked as outsiders. Oh yeah, they're just saying that because they want the project to go. Well, yeah, they want the project to go because that's what you hired us to do. But other people in your public want to hear from you folks.
So for instance, like at a community tour, we could set up the different options in strategic places around. So when you're doing the tour, and then like one of you or whoever, a staff member or whatever, could be at each station, basically explaining it, along with maybe someone from Nexus walking around to answer questions, but it comes off better if it comes from you.
The more you're the mouthpiece, the better.
Yep. So with that, I kind of wanted to just show you a couple timelines. Okay. So Minnesota has 5 opportunities next year for referendums. I think for you, the earliest possible that you could potentially go would be the May referendum. And it's very, very tight at this point to do that. So I just kind of wanted to put it together. So if you narrow it down to 2 options in November, that's saying that the 3 things that we just talked about, the community survey, the task force, and the community tours would take place over December and early January, okay? And then from that, you'd finalize the scope in January as well. With that, it leads to like a board approval at the board meeting in January, which I think is the 23rd. So
Or you did a special meeting.
You could do a special
by
meeting.
February 12th, because that's really the February 12th is where we have to get the review and comment in.
yeah, so the drop dead for the review and comment is February 12th. And then the last day to adopt the resolution would be February 24th. But because you have the review and comment submitted before that, you kind of have to have made a decision. It can be amended. The review and comment can be amended, but I mean, you have to have made a decision by the time you send in the review and comment that you're going to go to referendum, which then leaves the referendum campaign, basically, February, March, April, and then referendum vote is May 9th.
What would
Okay.
be the next one after May?
Yeah,
9th?
that's my next one. Yeah.
Okay.
So the next opportunity after that is August. Okay. So it does give you, let's say you narrow down to 2 options, November, December. You have 4 months then to do the community survey, the facility task force, and the community tours, right?
Mhm.
Finalize the scope over March and April with a board approval in the April board meeting. Then the review and comment is May 14th, and kind of the drop dead date, last day to adopt a resolution is May 26th, with the August 8th is the election day. So I just put together those 2 so that you can kind of put them in your head.
And you see that the difference in the 2 options are the amount of time allocated for the survey, the task force, community tours. basically all the information that enables the board to make a decision. After that point, you aren't going to need more time from a campaign perspective. That's the amount of time we have there is sufficient. So where we need to add the time would be in the middle. And that is really a matter of what this group and the board is comfortable with. Okay. What we've had other clients do, and again, we're looking for direction from you, is if we put you on a pace for the May referendum, you can always tap the brakes. We can hit an off ramp. If it's taking longer, we can always slow it down. What we have a hard time doing is if we plan this schedule, it's harder. It's difficult to speed it up, if that makes any sense. Brent, is it kind of catching a cold here? From a construction standpoint, does it really matter May or August? You know, does that
I thought about that, not really, because if you figure it's 8 months for design and bidding, and then the winter.
Yeah.
You're
maybe bidding a little earlier.
Yeah,
but-
it would help in your bid coverage, because you'd be bidding in January versus a March. It would help with bid coverage a little bit, but as far as construction, I still think you probably wouldn't be done with construction to end of calendar 25.
Right. But what he's saying there about the bid coverage is contractors are filling up, they're all very busy during the summer.
Right.
So they're looking to, the work that comes out early, like in January, gets more bid coverage because they're not full yet. And as you go closer to summer, March, April, well, now their dance cards are full. And so hence you have less contractors bidding, which causes the price to go up. So the earlier you're able to bid, the better. But you don't make your decision on the referendum based on that. You make your decision. You go to referendum when you're ready to go to referendum.
I have a question right off the get-go. When we get to a point, regardless whatever option, what is the, how do we do that with the students in their classes while this is being built or renovated? How do you do that?
Who wants to answer that? No, everyone looks at me.
I wonder that.
No, and you're right. That is the challenge in the renovations, right? So,
Bring in portable classrooms. or-
well, no, that just gets cost prohibitive. The good news is we would have to use some of the unused classrooms that you have over at Bird Island as swing space. You'd have to use that for a school year probably. So, for example, this is not thought out, so don't quote me on this, but say you're gonna renovate that elementary wing here, and you move some of those kids to Bird Island for a while you do that wing. That wing gets done, they move back in, and then you do the same thing over here in the high school center. So it is, once we narrow it down a couple options, I can start putting together more of a phasing plan. But it will be, that's why construction, it's gonna take at least 2 years probably to do this, because you have to do some chunks.
Because let's just say hypothetically, the general public agrees to having either K-4, K-6 there, something in each town. Well, all the kids could be housed here while they do that complete renovation there, because then they just do school as normal, and then you can throw the elementary over here, and then you could use your space over here too.
Yep. That's where you having 2 sites will, regardless of options, you having 2 sites will be a part of that solution, construction solution.
But yeah, again, and we're talking all kind of hypothetically.
Absolutely.
We would lay out a very detailed schedule of exactly how it's going to happen once we're to that point. But it'll be complex. But we will rest assured we won't compromise the learning environment, from a noise perspective, and then definitely not from a safety perspective.
But it's like renovating your kitchen while you live in your house.
Been there, done that.
It's inconvenient,
Yes,
right?
it will be
There's
inconvenient.
Just no way around it.
All right, with that, all I have is, we kind of want to throw out, and these are just options of future meetings. Either way, I think we need to get it down to 2 options sooner rather than later. It doesn't matter when, but I still want you to be ready. You know what I mean? I really don't want to push it, but these were just options up to, I don't know, and again, want your feedback, whether you think, I think it's going to take 2 more meetings with this group to narrow it down to a recommendation, to bring to the board. So these are 2 options. That does hit then the November 28th board meeting. But if we're not ready, you push it to December, so just wanted your feedback and
Do those dates work for
do
everybody?
those things work.
I don't love the 16th. I've already got something planned there that would take a lot of people to reschedule their calendars.
Okay,
But I could do 15th or 17th.
Or the 22nd, are those the 2 days that only work for you guys, or? could
We,
be
well,
between?
we were thinking both days.
Both
Both.
days?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
Two
it,
different meetings.
got it.
Yeah, we just saw it while we were all together. Two different meetings, so we're thinking the 22nd, and then if there's, well, let's focus on the 16th first, I
I mean,
I'm good.
I'm with both. I'm good with either one. so.
I could do 15th or the 17th as well.
I'm not able to do the 15th. I already have a board meeting that night, but
Okay.
I don't necessarily have to be.
17th?
17th works.
17th on a Thursday.
So 17th and 22nd? 10 to 3? Teresa,
Yes.
that work?
Mhm.
Jim, do you want to send
Oh,
those?
shoot.
Oh, what?
The week of the 22nd. I sent on my calendar, but I was actually planning on
Being gone.
We could push it back, go into December with the second meeting then. Let's just do that.
Or even, I mean, if you don't mind, we've got a board meeting on that Monday. We could do it any other day that week after the board meeting.
The week of the 28th you're talking?
Wait, wait.
To carry me.
Yeah, the week of the 28th. So our board meeting is on the 28th. We could do it 29th, with a December 1st.
I don't know how crucial I am, but I'm gone.
Second.
Huh?
Second. Uh,
December 1st, that's a Thursday. I don't know if that works for anybody.
Keeping that Thursday theme.
Yeah, that's true.
Can
Thursday night,
Can
17
you
and
guys do those? Because
I
I
think we leave on
can't.
the
If you guys
Hmm?
can.
I believe on the
I'm
second.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're going,
We do that.
so we're gonna do
First, that
Thursday, the
works.
1st?
17th, then the 1st is what I'm hearing now?
17th and the 1st, yeah.
Okay. And then
At-
shoot for,
4:00, right? We're sticking with that?
Yep.
Cool.
what is the December board meeting then?
No,
Would
it's,
that be the 26th? Ooh, that's.
That's what I
no,
was saying.
no, it's the week before
Must be
that.
the 19th.
The
I'm sure they have a
19th?
special
Okay.
group.
Okay.
But that's not on my calendar, so I wonder if we need to make that change. Yeah, it is on the 26th on this one, so we'll probably have to,
Move it to the
we'll
19th.
reschedule that at our next board meeting.
Okay.
So what are,
17th and 1st, 4 PM.
Another thing to put on your radar, we can talk more about it later, but then probably talk about the survey and getting approval from the board to do the community survey.
Sure.
You can maybe talk about it at the November one and then
We'll get
approve
your,
it.
we'll get your proposal from,
More so.
so by narrowing it down to two options, that's just the big picture view, obviously, what we're thinking. I mean,
Yes,
that's
and then
all.
we'll
It's
narrow
just-
those
just
down
a
from there.
big,
Yeah,
this is what we're,
it's not a final decision at all. It's just kind of, here's, just
Yeah.
big picture. And
no
then within
design
that-
or anything.
No,
It's just,
not
this is
at all.
the general
Absolutely.
planning we're looking at.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that it's going to be fairly simple. It's basically, do we want to keep everything in one site or do we want to spread?
I mean, the big thing to
Isn't
look
that-
at too is A and B are pretty similar and C and D are pretty similar. So if you're looking, you could pick one from A and B and one from
Sure.
C and D. And then you have kind of two different, one way to look at it.
I think as long as everybody understands that they're not picking one,
No,
they're just saying
exactly,
what they like about this and that and
right.
which
But
these
I mean,
plans?
our group to pick, to narrow it to two.
yeah.
To me, that's one of the biggest decisions we have to make here is
That's good.
And then we don't
Yeah.
want to rush it. so.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was saying. What we really want, we're showing you the look ahead. What we really want this group to focus on is the 28th or the 19th of how do we get you comfortable getting down to 2? Because that's a big first step.
Yeah, it is.
And what the community is going to think about those two options.
Yeah.
Is
When
a
I-
big one.
Jackie mentioned something like this on her email, just talking about what do we want to do? What's important? If we're doing if all we're concerned with is the financial stability of the district, I think that's one thing. If our concern is making sure that both cities have something in them, I think that's another way to go. So.
I don't know, maybe it could be one of the survey questions. I had a couple parents say they would like to see their younger kids moved out of the high school just because of some of the stuff that happens here and they see. And that maybe could be one of the survey questions, something
Yeah.
to that.
Well, and also too, I truly, from a lot of people that I hear, I think if you want to mend burnt bridges and bring the communities together, that's one way you can do it too, is it might not be the complete cost-effective way, but you probably get more buy-in if each community has some skin in the game or ownership or something.
Right, and at the end of the day, we have to get something approved, so that's.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's, yeah, and obviously those options a little more money. And that's where he says, hey, would that desire to do that outweigh the cost, the tax
Exactly.
burden?
And C&D would probably have to have an operational, portion of the referendum as well,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you'd have to, operate a whole other building.
We had talked about that a little bit. Have we made any progress on, I asked Jim one day if we could just do some operating analysis and cost analysis on.
We're putting it together about how much it would cost to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's fact-based decision-making would be,
Absolutely.
Lindsay and Amy and I have talked about this.
because that kind of ties in with all of these.
Yeah.
Because
It does.
at the end of the day, I don't see operating being, my personal guesstimate would be operating's not going to be a huge difference. I know there's a busing factor in there.
So there's some busing.
But at the end of the day, you have-
Utilities will be more, your,
You got a main office, so you're gonna have to stay.
we'll have to have an office in both spots, I suppose, yeah. We'll have to have, probably have to add a custodial position.
Or just split them
two.
because we brought all our custodians over here, just split them back out again.
But we're still down
You're
from
still
the
short,
So, but that's facts then that we could share, which would certainly be helpful. Maybe I'm
Absolutely.
way off, but one other question I had is, articles in the paper, do you see it advantageous to start putting updates out already now to say what the school is doing? Because people ask question, what's going on? Rumors are already out there. I mean,
Yes.
I would think a weekly update every week or at least monthly to say, hey, this is what we discussed last month.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Is that something should start now?
Yes.
All right. And who does that?
If the administration has a relationship, do you have a local paper? It's published weekly, twice a week, weekly. If you've got a relationship, we should meet with them.
Okay.
And we can participate in meetings. We can provide you fact sheets. Newspapers are stretched right now. If you want us to draft an article and give it to them, and they can use it or use parts of it, but oftentimes they appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, I know they would like that.
Yeah. And, I guess let us know how we can support you in any
Yeah.
ways.
I can't speak for the paper, but obviously, but I'm sure Scott would be more than happy to,
They often are.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Especially
again,
if we were doing the writing for
yeah,
them.
yeah. And they're not going to print anything that they don't agree with, but sometimes they're short staffed right now. And if they can have somebody kind of draft it and then they just tweak it a little bit, that helps them out. And,
We're not talking opinion pieces here. We're
no,
talking
this is
fact.
just
Right,
kind of.
no,
Right, that's what I'm talking, like a one paragraph fact. This is what happened last week. They met, they discussed this, and they're looking at options and
Yep.
short and sweet.
Yeah, just a quick read and just keep the public informed
Right.
and start to create awareness that something is going on. And then to correct the narrative that, when the rumor mill starts going of,
It's already out there, what's been going on, right?
yeah,
Why we didn't look at that. We did look at that and fix some of those things.
yeah. So,
And you guys, you live here, you're gonna hear that stuff, so that'll help us collectively combat those misinformation that invariably gets out there.
2 papers now, too. Rhode Island.
Both papers.
Yep.
Lake Lillian doesn't have the flyer anymore.
Just the horseshoe update, I guess.
Should we look at some locker rooms?
Do any of you guys see Pat ever?
I can certainly get it to him, sure.
Else I can leave it here.
Or do you see?
I wanted to send it
Is that
to him
over
and he
now,
said he was
Tuesdays?
never gonna be around.
We don't see him on Tuesday. He's
No.
not around.
I'll take it.
Otherwise, we'll drop it off at his house.
Cause
I'll drop it off at
sent
his
it to him like I did with you.
Yeah.
And he said he's not gonna be around, so just don't bother. And here's some extras of these.
Okay.
Of the update.